For Victims and Villains, my name is Josh, and today we are falling in love. We're going to talk about Joker, Folie, Deux. Joker, Folie, Deux addresses the events of the first film in a courtroom procedural mixed with elements of musical and comedy and animation. Let's get into it. So for me personally, Joker as a film and as a comic book film, I think it is one of the best comic book films we have gotten in the 21st century. Not to mention one of the best character studies we've seen in recent memory. For as bold of a statement as it may be to make, I think the first Joker is a perfect film. There's nothing that I would change about it. It grips me, it moves me every time I've seen it, which has been quite literally a handful of times. I think it was worthy of 100% of all of the accolades that it got, all of the acclaim it got, all of the controversy. I think Todd, Phillips, and Scott created something really remarkable, but also Joaquin Phoenix performance was incredible. The score was moving, and I was really hesitant about entering into this world as a sequel because I think that first film was such a fantastic, phenomenal standalone that I was really terrified coming into this movie. Now, I won't say that Folie Deux matches the level of excellency we saw in the first film. There are things about it that are on par with the first film. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. But I think overall, this is a really good companion piece to the first film. Now, if you want to watch this once, completely forget about it, I think it has the power to do that. If you want to watch these as a duology, the way that you would with the It films, I think it has the power to do that. And it has the power to kind of give a little bit more of a crowd pleaser with this one. And there are several elements about this that I thought were very surprising. We knew coming into this one that there was going to be musical elements into this. Obviously, Lady Gaga present. They really utilized her talents as a singer to really amplify the musical elements of this. And if you were kind of like me, you're kind of like, well, that sounds like a really weird direction to take to a movie like Joker. When it's in context, it makes sense. And I had a lot of trepidation coming into this, and all of those fears were literally laid to rest as the film would progress on, and you would have these musical numbers that just fit the tone of what the story was being told. When you watch that first film, there is a lot of really heavy emotions and themes woven throughout the course of it that by the time you get done, you feel like you need to watch an episode of The Office. Coming into Folie Deux, I fully expected a lot of those same heavy themes and emotions and just that feeling of dread walking out of it. But much like the musical element of it, there is also this level of comedy that's just kind of an undertone to the story being told, and it really works. It never feels out of context. It feels like it's a natural extension of the story being told, much like the music. Now, overall, I have a love-hate relationship with the story being told. So this is the classic Joker Harley story that we have come to know and love over these last 30 years in one corner, and a deconstruction of the events of the first film in the other corner with the courtroom procedural elements. Now, I will say the way that these two storylines both run parallel, but also ultimately end up intertwining throughout the course of them, they do work. And I do enjoy this universe's interpretation of the Harley Quinn character. I thought that they found a very clever way to bring her comic book roots into it while also remaining true to the tone and the groundedness of this universe that was established in Joker. Ultimately also giving us that love story that pays homage to the comic books, but also keeps it in this grounded reality as well. I think a large portion of what I ultimately feel like hinders the film is these courtroom procedural, pretty much for the majority of the film. While it does give us this universe's version of Harvey Dent, it ultimately, I feel like, hinders the film from its full potential. I think that the film kept the courtroom aspects to a minimal and more of the Joker Harley classic love story aspects that I think a lot of us are coming into this film expecting. I think it has the potential to be right on par with the original film. And unfortunately, because of those narrative decisions, and this film kind of just seems like it's, as I said, it's a good movie, but it is not a great movie. And on that note, let's run this one through the Rorschach rating scale. I'm going to go ahead and give Joker Folie Deux a 4 out of 5. I think this film overall is a really solid sequel. It does have fantastic performances from both Joaquin Phoenix and Lady Gaga. I love the interpretation and the adaptation that they do with the Joker and Harley's storyline, but also this universe's interpretation of Harley. But I think ultimately a lot of those elements are snuffed out from the larger courtroom procedural elements that this film goes after. Now, this would be the part in the video where I would talk about mental health, but I'm going to do a companion piece to this video to talk about the mental health, releasing next week, because the things that I want to address are considered spoilers. So hit that subscribe button and come back. But if you or someone you know is struggling right now with suicide, addiction, self-harm, or depression, or anything that is currently affecting their mental health, click the links in our show notes below to check out our mental health resource library. In the show notes below, you guys will find links to all of our social media, more movie reviews like this, our podcast network, and if you would like to support our mental health education efforts, we also do have a Patreon as well, where you guys can support us on a monthly basis. And in the show notes below, just because I was such a huge fan of the original one, we're going to provide a link to our spoiler-filled podcast episode that we did back in 2019 covering the OG Joker. But also you'll find that subscribe button down there below. So until next time, remember to keep it classy.